Hi everyone, this is Jacob with Medipure Products. Today we want to talk about the underlying causes of chronic illness. Very important topic. So illness a lot is similar to an iceberg. A lot of times the symptoms or things that we feel or can see are just the very, very tip of that iceberg. There's usually a lot of more things that are taking place beneath the symptoms or what we can actually see. So we want to go in and talk about what specifically are those things that are lurking or that are occurring that end up giving us the symptoms that we see. So some of the underlying issues include things like genetics, internal misbalance, and emotional and mental toxicity. So we're going to go ahead and talk a bit about each of these today. All right, genetic issues, in reality, out of those three, it makes up the least of the chronic illnesses that come later in life. And most of the time, genetic issues are caused because of exposure pre-birth to the embryo. So a lot of times we're talking about what the mother is exposed to. And we think about things like alcohol and drugs, pollution, if we're living in an environment where there's a lot of smog, for example, or we're exposed to a lot of herbicide and pesticide, that can affect us. And medications. There's a bunch of studies now about how taking medications pre-pregnancy and then, of course, while you're pregnant can affect the genetics of the baby, including the development of organs and other things. Now, it's important to note that sometimes these issues don't manifest themselves necessarily on the once the baby is born. Some of these issues can be manifested down the road or make the child more predisposed to a certain genetic disorder down the road. Internal misbalance is another issue that lies underneath the surface that we can't see. I want to note right here that the body is such an interesting and beautiful thing really to study, because the organs really work together to maintain a homeostasis, really, and all that means is that the organs optimize other organs, so they work to have a balance one with another, and so that's really a pretty beautiful concept when you think about it. That the heart, the lungs, the digestive tract, they all work to help each other out. They're not segmented and by itself. Now, the reason why I mentioned that is because when you think about the body as a machine, right? For example, with all these little parts that are moving and helping it work, if one of those parts ends up failing, the rest of the machine is not going to be optimized, obviously, or working as well. So things that cause those kinds of misbalances to occur internally are exposure to pollution, medication and antibiotics. Medication in and of itself and antibiotics, both of those have to pass through the liver, which then end up putting some wear and tear on the liver themselves. And then, of course, there's a number of other secondary negative effects that can occur. You don't have to look any further, really, than a commercial for an FDA-approved drug for them to list off all those negative consequences that can occur from taking a drug. Antibiotics, I'll say it is very, very known right now in the medical field that you want to avoid antibiotics whenever possible. I will say now, if you're with a doctor, then anytime you come with an infection, is always prescribing antibiotics, I would highly advise to please seek a second opinion or begin seeing somebody else, because most doctors know that that's not the route they want to go. In fact, for children that are always given antibiotics to deal with infections, when they grow up or as they grow up, they become much more prone to get sick than kids that aren't prescribed antibiotics as often. In addition, the antibiotics also end up attacking good bacteria. So what that means is we have to remember anti means against, biotics means living, so we're killing good and bad bacteria. So the immune system and the good bacteria that help drive the immune system is damaged. The good bacteria that's in the intestines is also killed. So once again, we know there's instances where antibiotics are needed, such as if you're getting let's say, for example, a root canal done or a tooth pulled. But we would advise once you're done taking those antibiotics, make sure you get some kind of high-grade, high-quality probiotic to replenish the bad or the good bacteria that's been killed in the body. Otherwise, you could have a lot of issues, within your later years. Poor eating is also causes internal misbalance. I won't talk so much about what happens there from a perspective of weight gain or anything like that. But I will say that, for example, if certain parts of the body are lacking nutrition, let's say there's a muscle or an area down in some muscle tissue that is lacking certain nutrients, other organs or other parts of the body will note that, and they'll go ahead and donate the available nutrients that they have to that part of the body to help give it some kind of nutrition. Now, what you end up getting there is consequently two parts of the body that end up being weak and lacking the proper amount of nutrition. So make sure you eat well and make sure you eat enough. Alcohol, smoking, and drugs. Won't spend a lot of time here. It's been well documented, all the problems that engaging that kind of behavior gives you. Emotional and mental toxicity is huge. Overworking, lack of sleep, and excess stress. These two pretty much go hand in hand. Unfortunately, we live in a day and age where we're all asked to do so much in our jobs. And so we have these long work hours, and then a lot of times that ends up meaning we don't sleep that much. And then that leads to a whole bunch of stress, both physically and mentally. When we're stressed out, our brain ends up creating chemicals that are then released into the bloodstream. If we have excess amounts of that stress, and it ends up actually becoming toxins within our bloodstream that then gets sent to parts of the body like the organs and our muscle fibers and tissues, etc. So you want to make sure get enough sleep if you can, and try to not run faster than you have means to. Lack of mental activity is also can cause chronic issues. Make sure you are mentally active. We would advise, for instance, not to have a TV in your room, simply because you don't just want to be brain dead by the time you come back from work. You still want to be mentally engaging. And so there's a lot of studies out now that talk about the association between certain forms of dementia and not being active mentally. So make sure that you keep your mind fresh and active. And then constant negativity. We discussed this in a previous video blog, but once again, our brain stores a massive amount of information. Every single thought that we have or event that occurs in our life is logged and stored in our brain. So we want to make sure that we stay thinking positively. Otherwise, it just goes back to having excess stress and having those toxins, as I mentioned before, being released into the bloodstream in excess. So once again, chronic issues as a whole, they're like an iceberg. A lot of times we don't see everything that's going on. So make sure if you're having some kind of symptom or issue, take a step back. Don't just look at the area of concern, but take a step back and really think about what your lifestyle may be like, and see if there's anything that may not be in harmony or in balance as a whole. That's very, very important, because once again, as I mentioned, the body acts as a whole. It's not segmented in and of itself, and so when we treat certain symptoms or issues that are occurring, we need to make sure that we treat it as a whole as well. Otherwise, all those issues that are occurring below the surface, we're not going to be able to see, and we're just going to be doing patchwork and never ever really coming to treat the issue at hand. If you have any questions, feel free to email me directly at jacob@metapureproducts.com, and follow our blog. It's mympHforlife.com. We have great video posts that we do once a week on Fridays, and then we post other great information throughout the week. So once again, if you have any questions, let me know, and feel free to pass this on to your friends. This is some great information. We love to help people achieve their health goals and be a little healthier every day. Thank you. Have a great day.